Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.
All right, guys, welcome in on a very happy Monday as the madness continues here on this March the 7th. Wow, 2022, and college basketball certainly delivered over the weekend. A lot of madness, in fact, and we were just talking about, we want to thank, Coach Dawkins there, UCF, for providing maybe one of the most laughable endings to a game all weekend long. But we are not done. We've got mid-major conferences, championships wrapping up tonight. And, of course, we are getting ready for the Blue Bloods all week long here as the Power Five, the major conferences, getting underway. So today, you guys are in for a treat as we break down a few of these championship games. We've got three of the best here today, including Drew Martin up at the top, Adam Trigger in the middle, and, of course, Tony Mejia ready to rock and roll here, guys, today. Locked and loaded. And before we dive into these games, Drew, how was the weekend for you, my man? What do you got going on a $9 Monday tonight at WagerTalk.com? And give us something you learned here over the weekend.
Sure, Joe. The weekend was a bounce back. Good. 3-1. Last week, actually, lost a couple in a row, which, overall, it's been a great college basketball season for me. And just learning in the past, when you're not seeing it right, maybe take a couple days off, watch the volume there. Don't ruin your whole season in a matter of a week or two. So I took a couple days off, Joe, and came back this weekend 3-1. So feeling good about this upcoming week. Arguably, my favorite week in the next 2 weeks anyway of the whole calendar year to be a sports bettor. College basketball, March Madness is here and got the $9 play up. It's actually a best bet on tomorrow night's slate, but you can get it today for just $9. So check it out, guys. Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com. Always excited to break down these games with you, Joe.
It's going to be a good showing tonight for sure there. And Trig, continuing to roll. It's been a great roll for you all week long, man. You're just crushing all of those last regular season games here over the last week, plus these mid-major tournaments. What do you got tonight, and what did you pull away from the weekend?
Yeah, it's been a good run for me, finally. 12-5, my last 17. I thought it was over when Boston College failed to cover in overtime on Saturday as a 3-point underdog, which has happened to me a number of times this year, but it was given back to me on Sunday because I was on Tulsa, and I was the beneficiary of that ridiculous ending in that Tulsa UCF game. So hopefully the run continues. I have a 4% best bet up for $9 Monday. That's on my page now. You can get it for $9. And there's not that many games tonight, so I'm looking at a couple others, and we're going to end up touching on them on this show.
All right, good stuff there. And talk to us here, Mejia. Big weekend, and of course, an even bigger Monday. It's going to be an even crazier week here beginning tonight. So what do you got locked and loaded for us at WagerTalk.com? And what did you pull away from the weekend?
No, firstly, there will be no Johnny Dawkins slander on my watch, Joe Raineri. He did the right thing in fouling up 3. And his team failed him at the free throw line. So it is what it is. $9 packages tonight on the NBA and in college basketball on some of these games. Real fun to have, all these contests in a season that's had a lot of parity in college basketball. because they all mean something. And instead of handicapping who is going to show up in a normal regular season game in January or even February, we know that seasons are on the line. Everything you've worked for is at your grasp. So we expect at least both teams to show up in every matchup. So I mean, this is a time of year where I'll look at a line, make my line, and handicap the game, and then hope for the best. My only 5% this weekend hit by a half a point in the St. John's over against who they lose to this weekend. I forget. But it got over by a half a point on the road with a little bit of some luck late. So we were fortunate there, and have lost a bunch of games by a half a point. So my takeaway from the weekend is you always have to shop for the best line. Try to get on the early lines if possible, if there are no injuries, as often as possible. And then you are also, if you see a line dipping, wait till that number comes down to where you have, because at this point, it's always advantageous to have the right number.
All right, good stuff there, guys. Great advice, and get ready because the fun back at it here today, and we're going to start game number one. We're going to look for the SoCon champion here tonight as Furman and Chattanooga get it going. Just a 1-point Chattanooga opening line as a favorite there, 143. One of these teams is getting that exclusive ticket punched here in Asheville tonight, Drew. And we've seen Chattanooga take care of business twice this year against Furman. So what do you think? They get it done again tonight?
You know what, Joe? I think they do. I like the mocks here. We're going to have to lay, 2.5, depending when we're shopping now. And it looks like the market pushing up Chattanooga from that -1 opener. And I do agree with it. I mean, they're a 77% team from the charity stripe. So if it does get down to a foul fest at the end, you can kind of trust Chattanooga. And guys, this is number 1 versus number 2 in the SoCon for the right to go to the NCAA tournament here. Not all of them. Actually, there's been some upsets in conference tournament, with actually the next game we're going to talk about being a team that really wasn't supposed to be in the championship game. But both of these two teams are Cherokee Center here in North Carolina. Look, 2-0, like you talked about, that's Chattanooga versus Furman. I think it's more of the same tonight. Plus the fact, one of the matchups why I think Chattanooga has had success against Furman, Joe, is they guard the three-point line very well. They're the number 1 team, three-point defense in the SoCon. And if you can stop Furman from just going, lights out from three-point land, that could be a reason why, because Furman can really put the ball in the basket, like they say. What a top 15 field goal team percentage-wise. And they play slow, near 300 in terms of tempo. So if they're not lighting it up from 3, I think Chattanooga runs away with it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a great game down the stretch. They knock down their free throws. Give me the mocks, Joe, -2, -2.5 at most sportsbook right now.
Yeah, and it's funny, too. The 2 times Chattanooga actually won when they played Furman, they were shorthanded at both of those games with a member of their backcourt there, Trig. So I believe they're full strength for this one. So what do you think we're going to get tonight?
Yeah, I think the market got this one right. It opened 1. It's up to 2.5. And I think that if you got ahead of that, you're probably on the right side. I don't really subscribe a whole lot to the, you can't beat a team 3 times in one season. I feel like it's something to, keep in mind, but we see it happen all the time where, teams end up winning that 3rd game in the postseason after sweeping the season series. I agree with Drew. It's definitely a matchup thing. Now, don't be surprised if Furman comes out and just goes lethal from 3 and is right in this game. They can definitely do that. But the deck is probably not stacked in their favor against Chattanooga, who defends the 3 well and has a pretty big advantage on the inside here. So I actually found this to be the most difficult handicap of the 3 games we're going to talk about. And the biggest reason for that is Furman's ability to just knock down shots. So, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Furman just shoots the lights out and wins this game. But if they don't, they're going to have trouble. And for that reason, I'm staying off it with a slight lean to Chattanooga because I had them. I thought they were the best team in this conference coming into the season, and I think they'll probably end up in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they got all the pieces here, don't they, Chattanooga? We know Furman can certainly light up the scoreboard here, but do they have enough to finally win one here against Nuga here tonight, Tony Mejia?
Yeah, look, I'm going to make it unanimous. I like the Mocs. I think if you feel uncomfortable with missing the early number, ride the money line, especially since all of these conference games seem to come down to a final possession or two, and you don't want to get backdoored now laying 2.5 if that's the case. But one case for the Mocs and avoiding this, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Is, as you mentioned, they weren't at full strength in those first 2 games. In the first one, they were missing. David John Baptiste, the guard from Miami, who's really talented. He almost transferred out, and they coaxed him to stay in there. He was absent in that first game, and then most recently they missed Silvio De Sousa, who had all that controversy at Kansas before he transferred in, and he's a dynamic big man. He was missing in the most recent matchup. So now at full strength, I think the advantage is Chattanooga. Chattanooga had the early game on Saturday and beat the Citadel rather handily. That game was cosmetically closer than it actually was. And then they blew out Wofford in the early game yesterday, whereas the Paladins had to come back from a substantial deficit against Samford. They were an 8.5, 9-point favorite and barely won the game. So, they've been taxed. Bothwell was in foul trouble, their leading scorer. And certainly Furman can light it up from the perimeter. I think that is the key here. But as Drew mentioned, Chattanooga really solid from defending the perimeter, and they held Furman to 4 of 23 shooting from beyond the arc last time they played one another. So if they can sustain that, they'll cruise into the NCAA tournament. So give me Chattanooga, either money line or laying the points.
All right, good stuff there, guys. Should be a great one, and I believe both of these teams have done a great job of playing to the under as well when they go at it. So it should be a good one here tonight. This should also be a good one, although it's surprising as we head to the Sun Belt, guys. Let's take a look at Georgia State. Wow, Georgia State taking on what? UL Lafayette. That's exactly what we've got here as Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns. Cinderella story here. And meanwhile, the hottest team, Georgia State. 11 of 12, 9 straight for Georgia State. If you've been riding them, you've been cashing big tickets here, Trig. And now they've got to take on the lower seed UL Lafayette, the Cinderella story. Can they get it done, Georgia State?
So I'm going to leave the actual matchup, the players matchup, to Tony and Drew. And I'm going to talk about the coaching matchup. I started to talk about this on Wager Talk today, got a little rushed. So I want to give the full sort of breakdown here. Rob Lanier, coach of Georgia State, was the coach of Siena when I was a freshman there, 2004-2005 season. And he took a team, he assembled a team of absolute stud talent and managed to go 6-24 and get fired. Most notable guy on that team, Jack McClinton, who ended up transferring to Miami and being like one of the best players in Miami Hurricanes college basketball history, NBA draft pick. Lanier ended up being an assistant for a bunch of teams. Basically, the point here is the guy's an outstanding recruiter. He always gets stud talent. And that's what happened at Georgia State this year. And that's why they were preseason picked to win the league by many. He's just not a very good coach. And it was apparent again this year. So he went all those years where he wasn't a head coach. He gets back to being a head coach. This is his 3rd year at Georgia State. And they actually kind of underachieved. A lot of people thought Georgia State was going to win this league. Lafayette underachieved as well. But if you look at Bob Marlin's coaching record, this dude's been a head coach in the NCAA for like 28 years. He's made 3 NCAA tournaments. And I went back and looked, and I don't think he's ever really had a bad team. He's had some middling teams, but he never really has a bad team. He's an outstanding coach, in my opinion. And I think coaching matters in these championship games, neutral floor, thin margin. So if you're going to give me 3.5 points with Lafayette, now this is a team that Georgia State beat twice in the regular season. And maybe it is tough to beat a team 3 times. Maybe it's not. But if you're going to give me 3.5 points on a neutral floor with Louisiana Lafayette in a game that seems even, and you're giving me the better coach, I'm going to go with the Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns against the number in this game.
All right, going Ragin' Cajuns in this one. He's got a point here, Tony. I mean, this team was Georgia State picked to do great things here in the Sun Belt this season. The problem was when they beat, actually, Louisiana back in January, that's what started this crazy run of 11 of 12. They were 6-9, but then they clamped down. This defense, they're coming after you, and they force turnovers at a crazy clip here. So what are we going to see differently, if anything, in this matchup that we haven't already seen here, Tony?
I mean, yeah, these are teams that know each other well. Lanier's been at Georgia State for a couple of years now, and Marlon's a fantastic coach. So if that's your angle, it's not a bad angle to have, especially since Georgia State has already won twice. I was angered by Georgia State when they crumbled down the stretch in a game I had them getting points against Georgia Tech. That was December sometime, and they ended up losing in overtime by 10 in a game they were getting points. I think they were getting 5.5, 6 points, and it was an awful bad beat that I still remember. But again, they were in a situation where they should have won the game. I think it was free throw shooting that really let them down the stretch. So it's a team that can. They do have athletes. I think they're a better team than this Louisiana squad. We'll see if the Ragin' Cajuns can get Jordan Brown to dominate inside. He's 6'11". If he, really highly touted recruit, probably the highest touted recruit on either side. He started his career at Nevada and spent some time at Arizona. So we're talking about a kid with that kind of pedigree. If he can dominate and stay out of foul trouble, I think the Ragin' Cajuns have a really good chance to win. If he can't, then Georgia State has the better team. So this is probably a game I'm staying away from. I would take a look at the low side, though. This looks like a game that will be tight throughout and probably be micromanaged by both coaches. So the under would be the lean to me.
So we talked a little bit there about defense, Drew, and Georgia State loves to turn you over, top 20 in the country. Louisiana in these two games, I believe the number is 37 times they turned the ball over to Georgia State in their two matchups. And Louisiana outshot them from three, and it didn't matter. So what are we going to get in this matchup, do you think?
Sure, Joe. I mean, some great points by you, and in terms of the turnovers in the past matchups, also by Trigg and Tony. I just want to comment real quick with Trigg. That profile of being a good recruiter at Georgia State, I think sets up well. I lived in Atlanta for 8 years. It's right there in downtown Atlanta. And just the recruiting aspect for basketball, it should go very, very well with them because the academic standards aren't that high. And plus, Georgia State putting a whole lot of money into their sports, into both football and basketball. So I think he actually could do well profile-wise at Georgia State. And Louisiana Lafayette here, Joe, it's the lowest seed to make the Sun Belt Conference Tournament Championship game in the conference's history here. They're the number 8 seed, by the way, guys. They've also played 3 games in the tournament. Georgia State only 2 due to them having to play earlier in the tournament. So not really sure how much that's going to come into effect. A lot of people think like, oh, tired legs, something like that. I'm not totally into that. I think, just being college kids, you're ready to rock. I mean, you win and you're in the tournament. So I don't know that I buy too much into that. What I do kind of buy into is, look, the Ragin' Cajuns, not very good overall. I mean, they're under 500 regular season guys, and they might go to the tournament. But one thing you do notice is they light it up from 3. That's how they got here. So if they're able to hit their threes today, watch out, Georgia State. Georgia State is the better team, the more talented team. They went 2-0 to your point, Joe, against Louisiana Lafayette, and both of those games to the under. So I think that's more of the same. The last game they played was actually pretty competitive, 65-58. It was the last game of the regular season. So it hasn't been that long since they played either. I think that it's more of the same, though. I would look to bet the under. And interesting note here, location-wise, which matters a lot in conference play here, conference tournament play, guys. This is in the Pensacola Bay Center. And this is a Sun Belt Conference tournament that used to be in New Orleans. They changed locations here, and it's been an under-trender. We saw this total open at 138, Joe. It's now as low as 132. So the vultures are out on that trend, betting it to the under. I like it. I think it's smart money, pushing it, a 6-point move here towards the under. Some of that move is my money, and I still like it to the under. So under 132.5 is the way I would go at this one, Joe.
All right, good stuff there. Under it is in that matchup. Should be a good one in the Sun Belt tonight, and we'll end by talking out west. And there they are, the Bulldogs, the Zags. They are hosting the Dons of San Francisco. The Zags open up as a 12. We've seen that move up as high as 14. 154.5 as an opening total here, 9 o'clock Eastern time tip. Now, this is the semifinal. The winner of this game will move on to take on the winner of St. Mary's Santa Clara. That, too, coming up a little bit later. But, I mean, Tony, I guess it's just a matter of, all right, how much does Gonzaga win by, or is it?
Yeah, look, I want to see San Francisco show up in this game because they've got they're right there, top 30 NCAA net ranking. They beat BYU in a game they had to have, and the Cougars had to have to separate that 3-4 in the West Coast Conference. Considering I only see this conference getting 3 teams in, and they took care of business. So how motivated are they? They should be plenty motivated because they really lost in big games. They played that addition game that they had against Loyola Chicago in a matinee that they created on the fly and really hung tight in that game, but lost. Their best wins right now are against that BYU team that they handled a couple of times. Nevada hasn't been great. They're hoping that UAB can win the Conference USA because they've got to win over them. They've got to win over Davidson, which looks decent. So this team is probably going to get in the NCAA tournament, but don't get embarrassed tonight. And they played a really good first half the first time they lost to Gonzaga. Jamari Bouye is a potential pro who can really get his own shot, and he's got to control this game for the Dons. They lost to Gonzaga both times by 16 points. This will probably be right around the 12 to 14 point spread. Just don't let it be 25-30. And I think San Francisco is in good shape to make the NCAA tournament. So for this particular matchup, I would say that they definitely have more motivation than the Zags. So it would be taking the points or passing for me.
They showed up against BYU over the weekend. Great job handling business there. It's not like they don't know one another. So do you trust the Dons to keep it within the number?
Joe, I would actually lean that way towards the Dons here, plus 13 or 14. But even more so, guys, look at the futures. The Dons are plus 1,400 to win the WCC here. So, hey, if you think that they have a shot, it's obviously a real long shot to cash a plus 1,400 ticket. But Gonzaga, their first game in the tournament, whereas the Dons already used to the floor here at the New Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. Actually, this was the last game I was watching before everything shut down for the pandemic, Joe, back in 2020 here was a San Francisco Dons game, watching it in person. So it's kind of a real, full circle moment for me talking about it. But the Dons, number 1 3-point defense in the conference. So if they're able to kind of guard that 3-point line here against Gonzaga, I think that they do have a shot. But even more so, Joe, I like it again to the under 155 here, conference tournament. Get back on defense. Let's look to advance. Obviously, Gonzaga, kind of going to make the tournament, likely be a 1 seed anyway, but the Dons might be on the bubble. Their coach thinks that they're already in. I think that's an interesting aspect, but motivation, I would put it towards the Dons. So sidewise, like San Francisco, but even more so, I like the under. These two teams have already played twice. First game, well under. The second game, it did go over. However, both teams shot 550% from 3-point land. I don't think that happens again. So I like this one under, Joe. 155 still available.
All right, under it is. And we got to keep an eye on the Dons big man there. Did get hurt at the end of that BYU game. And Drew brought it up. It's a good point here, Tree. The coach is already assuming they're going to March Madness. So I don't know how much they're going to push this kid to play one way or the other here. What do you think?
So, Joe, I'm not surprised that Drew and Tony, they're both sharp guys, and they both saw right through the whole I've been listening to talk shows and different shows all morning, and I hear a lot of making the case that San Francisco won't care about this game. how would you not care about playing number one Gonzaga in the WCC tournament? Like, I understand San Francisco got their big win. That probably puts them into the NCAA tournament. But you can't tell me that these kids are not going to be up to play Gonzaga in this game. Like, I just don't buy that argument for one minute. So I actually am going to make an audible. My best bet for the show will be will be San Francisco plus the points. I talked about it on Wager Talk today that this had gotten up to 15, and both of the first two meetings, the sharp bettors slammed San Francisco, and they covered the first one. I think it was 17.5. San Francisco ended up losing by 16, and the second one they did not cover. But the sharp bettors hit San Francisco in both of those games. Sure enough, we're on the show. I'm watching my odds board. It gets up to 15 most places. Bang, right back to 14.5. And I'm looking at some of the sharper books out there. They're back to 14. Tells me that they were, letting the early bettors bet it up as high as they could possibly let it go. And they hit at the peak of value, which is probably 15, because this is now trending back in the other direction. I like San Francisco. I think that they have, that you can't, I just don't buy that they're not going to be up for this game. Of course, they're going to be up for this game. Yes, their one player may not play who's banged up. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name right now. But even if he wasn't to play, I think San Francisco is dangerous here because this is a really good team. No one expects them to win this game. They're essentially playing with house money. And you know what? Like, Gonzaga hasn't played in over a week. I know they're coming off a loss, but they haven't played in a week. So they might have a little bit of rust. And the bigger game for Gonzaga, the game they're going to be really focused in would be tomorrow night when there's a championship on the line. Listen, Gonzaga is good enough to come out and win by 20, but San Francisco is also a really good team. And there was stretches in that first game, or the second game, the most recent game, where San Francisco did look pretty solid. And to Drew's point, there's also sharp money on the under. And I think San Francisco is going to really try to slow it down because I think they learned last time out that they can't run with Gonzaga. Slower game. Those 14.5 points are worth that much more in that scenario. So give me San Francisco Dons plus 14.5.
All right, there you go. Digging the Dons in that one. And it's a great card here tonight, guys. It's a limited card, but a lot of these games, semifinal games already, championship games as well. It is time to see which one of these games these guys like maybe a little bit more than the rest. And Drew, we're coming to you, man. Start us off. Which one of these games you circle for us here tonight?
Joe, I'm going to the two powerhouses in the Sun Belt Conference, Georgia State and Louisiana Lafayette here, the Ragin' Cajuns and the Panthers. Ragin' Cajuns, the highest seed ever to make the Sun Belt Conference championship game. And as long as they're not lighting it up from three, I think this game stays under the total. It was 138, guys. Don't like getting this number of 132.5, but hey, we record the show around 2 o'clock Eastern, so got to get what we get now. Both of the games they played in the regular season finished under the total. And good defense all around. Georgia State especially, I think it stays under 132.5 in a game that, both teams are going to be kind of at the forefront for defense. Get back on defense. Play to win this game to punch your ticket into March Madness. It also being the location change, Pensacola Bay Center, where they're playing the Sun Belt Conference, guys. It's been an under trender so far. I think it's more of the same here. Under 132.5, Georgia State, Louisiana Lafayette for me, Joe.
All right, under it is. Talk to us here, Trig. You alluded to it. You like the Dons. You're not going to mess around. You just take as many points as you can. Do you play that sooner rather than later? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say you have to play it now. Listen, Gonzaga, if you wanted to bet Gonzaga, you should have done it already. This opened like 12. And I think, what happened was the market kind of pushed Gonzaga up. And if you pay attention to like sharp money and stuff like that and the market, which I do, you would know that the first two meetings between these two teams, the Sharps hit San Francisco pretty hard in both of them. And sure enough, this eventually got to a number where they decided to jump in again. It looks like that number was 15. As soon as this hit 15, it moved back to 14.5. Some of the sharper books are at 14 now. I kind of broke it down earlier. I think this is a good number. I don't think we're going to see a scenario where San Francisco just quits. Like, this is still a huge game against the number one team in the country. WCC tournament on the line. I mean, I know they just punched their ticket probably beating BYU, but you can't convince me that they won't care about this game tonight. So plus 15 on a neutral court, both of the first meetings. Gonzaga won by 16. Now we're on a neutral. San Francisco plus the points seems like the bet right now in this game.
Going with the Dons here tonight. All right, good stuff. Talk to us here, Tony Mejia. Which one of these games you got circled tonight on the card?
None of these games, all the cool kids are going to Sioux Falls to see South Dakota and South Dakota State play in the Summit League semifinals. That's a lot of S's. Jackrabbits looking for their 20th consecutive win and a third straight victory over these Coyotes. South Dakota's actually done a really nice job considering I thought they were going to be towards the bottom of the Summit League this season. They've actually won, 6 of 7. They won 2 out of 3 last year, so it's not like South Dakota State has won this series one-sidedly. But this particular Jackrabbits team, I think they're really solid, and I don't see them being challenged in this game. Again, it's neutral site at the Sanford Premier Center. It's not even at the Sanford Pentagon, which is where they normally play these Summit League tournaments. But yeah, what you've seen in the first 2 meetings is South Dakota State win by 19, and they won most recently by 10. And in that game that they won by 10, one of their best players who scored 25 points in that first meeting went 0 for 3 from the field. The South Dakota Coyotes had 6 double-digit scorers, and both of their veteran guards played well. So I think that's their biggest punch. And it was one of those games that they had at home. Everybody contributed, and they still managed to lose by double digits. So I think tonight that will have South Dakota State's attention, and there will be no overlooking the Coyotes. I'm going to lay the points and expect a double-digit win from the Jackrabbits, South Dakota State.
All right, South Dakota State. Well, that Summit League has been like printing money on overs this tournament. Just take the over. Doesn't make
yesterday.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Except for you, Oral Roberts. All right, so let's take a look here. Well, they priced it like 190. Like, come on. Our friends from the Gold Sheet here have a play tonight. They, in fact, are going to be looking at the St. Mary's Santa Clara game, which, by the way, is the ultimate degenerate special tonight. 11:30 p.m. Tip is what it is scheduled for. One of our favorite time slots. They're going to go with Santa Clara, guys. And this is a great write-up. I would encourage you guys to check it out. We will post it like we do all the Gold Sheet plays of the day on our Twitter page here at Wager Talk. Make sure you check it out. And then, of course, guys, head over to goldsheet.com. More great write-ups on these games coming up. Great handicapping tools. All available over at goldsheet.com. So there was one game on this card tonight. It's one of our favorite sayings here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this team is an underdog, guys, this year, 11-1. I don't understand it, but I'm going with UNC Wilmington here. 11-1 against the number as an underdog. They've already beat Charleston twice, and I get it. They dropped almost 100 points on Hofstra, but they are never going to play another game like that, like they did last night. That's the best of the best. Ain't getting that this time. So give me UNC Wilmington plus the points tonight against College of Charleston. One more time, the recap here as well, guys, as we're looking with Drew going to the under. Georgia State taking on the Raging Cajuns. Look at that under at 132.5. Trigg says, go get the Dons. Get yourself some San Francisco. Take the 2 touchdowns or more. Tony Mejia, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits continuing to roll here tonight. Lay that 9 points. I'm going to go UNC Wilmington. I'll take the 2. And our friends at the Gold Sheet, Santa Clara, take the 5 against St. Mary's. And the winner of that game, of course, gets to play the winner. Well, who are we kidding? They're going to play Gonzaga. Okay, so let's make sure you head over to WagerTalk.com. Why? $9 Monday, guys. Their best bets. You got Drew Martins. You got Adam Trigger. You got Tony Mejia. Their best bets, $9 right now over at WagerTalk.com. All you have to do is head over that way, take advantage, grab their best bets, just $9, and then make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. We'll do it all over. The madness has begun, guys. Big conference tournament games all week long, heading right into, of course, Selection Sunday. So much more to get to. Hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. Hit subscribe on YouTube and make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. On behalf of Drew Martin, Adam Trigger, Tony Mejia, best of luck with those plays tonight, guys. We'll see you again soon.
Founded in 1957, The Gold Sheet is the country's longest-running sports betting newsletter and has been serving bettors for over 6 decades. Whether you are a lifelong subscriber, used to buy it at the newsstand, or perhaps have never seen The Gold Sheet, we want to share this amazing March Madness offer with you. Get 5 weeks of access to both the college basketball and NBA Gold Sheet newsletter for only $29. This will give you daily access to both the complete NBA and college basketball reports, which includes power ratings, strength of schedule, average line, against the spread records, and more. Get all of this for under $1 a day. It's not your dad's newsletter where games were written a week in advance, but rather up-to-date stats, scores, injuries, and all of the information to make you a March Madness expert. Head to goldsheet.com and get your March Madness on for only $29.